The Romans didn't invent democracy, but they took it to places that no one has been able to match since. You've probably heard of their massive military, their vast network of roads, or perhaps the Colosseum where Christians were fed to the lions. But did you know that the Romans also invented many things that are still used today? And I mean really used. When you think of the most powerful empires of all time, you may be thinking about Rome. However, did you know that even today the Roman Empire still controls your life? Stay tuned to find out how. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're exploring the ways that the Roman Empire still influences our daily lives. The empire that was founded by Romulus after he killed his twin brother Remus is almost 2,000 years old, yet its influence on Western civilization cannot be denied. Everything from our legal systems to our languages to our diets can trace some roots back to ancient Rome. So let's jump right into it. When Augustus Caesar came to power in 27 BC, he inherited a divided Italy. While Julius Caesar had conquered much of the Italian peninsula, there was still resistance in the south. The new emperor set about crushing these revolts and establishing order throughout the empire. He succeeded so well, in fact, that this period of peace became known as the Pax Romana, or Roman peace. During this time, trade flourished, cities grew, and the general populace enjoyed a relative prosperity unheard of since the days of the Greek and Persian empires. This stability lasted for 2 centuries and allowed for the easy exchange of ideas, people, and goods throughout the empire. That meant that Latin, the language of the Romans, began to spread across Europe. Today, Latin is considered a dead language, which means that no one speaks it natively. However, because of its influence on Western civilization, it is more alive than ever. The Romance languages of Spanish, Portuguese, French, and Italian all evolved directly from Latin and are spoken by hundreds of millions of people around the world. Even English contains many Latin loanwords. For example, the word nation comes from the Latin word natio, meaning birth. This is just one example of the thousands of words that the Romans left us with. And when you think about the scope of their empire, it makes sense why so many countries use Latin-based languages today. They simply spread so widely that it would have been impossible for other languages to take root in so many places. If you've ever watched a movie about ancient Rome, you've probably noticed that the buildings and statues are covered in writing. This is because the Romans loved to inscribe messages onto objects, usually using a practice called engraving, which involves carving letters into a stone slab. Often these writings were of a religious nature, such as prayers to the gods or dedications to temples, but they could also be used to record important events or historical figures. Ancient Roman inscriptions can still be seen in many places throughout the empire's former territories, although most have fallen into disrepair. However, a few particularly well-preserved examples remain, such as the column of Marcus Aurelius, which is covered in the deeds of the emperor's military campaigns. The most famous inscription of all, however, is the Rosetta Stone, which was discovered in 1799 by Napoleon's army. The stone contained a decree issued by the priests of a temple in Memphis, inscribed in both hieroglyphic and Demotic script. This allowed scholars to finally decipher the ancient Egyptian language. Without the Rosetta Stone, we may never have been able to read the pyramids, so you can thank the Romans for that. It's hard to imagine modern society without the rule of law. Courts, judges, and laws are there to keep order and ensure that everyone plays nice together. In theory, at least the Roman Empire was one of the first civilizations to develop a comprehensive legal system. Their laws were written down in a code known as the 12 Tables, which dealt with everything from property rights to criminal law. Unlike many previous legal systems, Roman law applied equally to all citizens, regardless of wealth or social status. This was a radical idea at the time, and it paved the way for modern conceptions of justice and equality under the law. Some of the principles of Roman law are still in use today, such as the presumption of innocence until proven guilty. So you can thank the Romans for not ending up in jail for something you didn't do. The Colosseum is one of the most iconic structures from the ancient world, an enormous amphitheater where gladiators would fight to the death for the amusement of the crowds. Built in 80 AD, the structure was able to hold up to 80,000 spectators and was used for all sorts of public spectacles, from animal hunts to executions. Today, only a few crumbling walls remain, but the Colosseum is still one of the most popular tourist destinations in Rome. You can actually visit the ruins today, although you can't go inside because it's too dangerous. However, the Romans weren't the first to come up with the idea of an amphitheater. These kinds of buildings had been used by the Greeks for centuries before, usually for theatrical performances or sporting events. What the Romans added was sheer scale, as well as a number of innovative architectural features, such as the use of concrete and the invention of the groin vault. These techniques allowed them to build structures much larger and more elaborate than anything the Greeks had managed. As a result, the Romans built dozens of amphitheaters throughout their empire, some of which are still standing today. When you think of fast food, you probably have McDonald's, KFC, and Taco Bell in mind. But did you know that the Romans had their own version of fast food? It was called thermopolium, and it was basically a Roman equivalent of a drive-through. These establishments were usually located near taverns or brothels and were open late into the night. They sold a variety of quick and easy-to-eat foods, such as pizza, pastries, and fried chicken. The main difference between thermopolia and modern fast food is that the food was usually cooked fresh and served by waiters rather than being kept warm in a holding oven. Still, the concept is remarkably similar to today's fast food restaurants, and it shows just how timeless the desire for quick and easy meals is. If you think about it, the Romans had the perfect fast food menu. They had pizza, fried chicken, wine, and prostitutes. All of these things can get you in trouble if you consume too much of them, but they're definitely fun to indulge in occasionally. The Roman Empire had a huge impact on the course of human history. Its military conquests spread Roman culture and ideas throughout Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. But perhaps the most lasting legacy of the Roman Empire is its art and architecture. Roman sculptures and buildings are renowned for their beauty and grandeur, and they continue to inspire awe in viewers today. One of the most famous works of Roman art is the statue of David by Michelangelo. Completed in 1504, the statue is a masterpiece of Renaissance sculpture, and it is considered to be one of the finest examples of humanism in art. Another famous work of Roman art is the Pantheon, a former Roman temple that is now a church. Built in 126 AD, the Pantheon is a marvel of Roman engineering. Its concrete dome is the largest unreinforced concrete dome in the world, and it was the first building to use this technique. Today, the Pantheon is one of the best preserved ancient monuments in Rome, and it is a popular tourist destination. Ancient Rome was a city like no other. It was the capital of the most powerful empire in the ancient world, and it was home to some of the most famous landmarks in history, the Colosseum, the Pantheon, and the Roman Forum. But what was everyday life like in ancient Rome? To answer this question, let's look at a typical day in the life of a Roman citizen. The average Roman woke up before sunrise and immediately went to work. Most Romans were employed in agriculture or trade, and they worked long hours for little pay. After work, they would return home to a small apartment or insula. They would eat dinner with their family and then spend the evening socializing or attending religious services. If they were lucky enough to be free, they might attend a chariot race at the Circus Maximus or watch a gladiator fight at the Colosseum. No matter what they did, the average Roman knew that life was tough, but they also knew that they were living in the greatest city in the world. Today, Rome is still one of the most popular tourist destinations in the world. Every year, millions of visitors come to see the Colosseum, the Pantheon, and other Roman landmarks. But what is life like in Rome today? Rome is a modern city with all the amenities you would expect, including world-class museums, restaurants, and shops. But it's also a city with a rich history. Everywhere you go, you'll see reminders of the Roman Empire, from the ruins of the Colosseum to the Pantheon. And when you think about the scope of the empire, it makes sense why so many countries use Latin-based languages today. They simply spread so widely that it would have been impossible for other languages to take root in so many places. We hope you enjoyed learning about the ways that the Roman Empire still influences our daily lives. From the food we eat to the laws we follow, the Romans left an indelible mark on Western civilization. We encourage you to explore these topics further and discover all the ways that ancient Rome is still relevant today. If you want to learn more about ancient history, make sure to check out our other videos. Thanks for watching.